Phil Williams. You are listening to the Phil Williams Show. PatriotInsight.com. Follow me on Twitter, Phil Williams HQ, and on Facebook, Phil Williams HQ. My partner Jeffrey Saylor, that's Jeffrey_Saylor on Twitter, Jeffrey Saylor on Facebook. This is that spot where we come in with my response to a tweet. Mr. Tat, my response to a tweet. Today's tweet is saying, history is repeating itself. Can't you see we're being gunned down in the streets like we're back in the 60s all over again? Wow. Repeat this. History is repeating itself. Can't you see we're being gunned down in the streets like we're back in the 60s all over again? Wow. Well, here we go. First of all, the 60s had Martin Luther King. And even with Martin Luther King and everything that was happening to black people back in the 60s, he never said Black Lives Matter. If you're comparing this to the 60s, they had a Martin Luther King and he never said Black Lives Matter. But you know what he said? We need to get to a point to where we judge people by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. For the people in the cheap seats, Black Lives, you guys listening? Judge people by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. Let me break this down for you. He knew that the color should be irrelevant, but the people he was speaking for, the content of their character were showing the respect that he felt that they needed to be looked upon and deserved. The content of the person's character back then, the black man was going to work every day, feeding his family. The woman was at home, maybe even going to work, taking care of the kids, making sure they got home from school safely, visiting the school. This was the content of their character. They were mowing their grass. They were being good, responsible people in their community. They didn't have a homeowners association telling them what the standards should be for a clean neighborhood. They were doing these things on their own. Why? Because they were living in America, regardless of everything they were going through. They were not whining and complaining. They were just out there just trying to do the best they can with both hands. And this was the content of their character. And so Martin Luther King was saying, if you can gauge these people and judge these people by the content of their character, there is no way in the world that you would have to put water hoses on them. There's no way in the world you're going to sick dogs on them. There's no way in the world you are going to shoot them, unarmed, innocent, or whatever. Because of the content of their character was so strong, Martin Luther King felt that you are doing something unjust to people that are just doing everything that America stands for. And that's unfair. He put himself in the position to be arrested because why? The police were forced to make things up on these people with character. Had nothing to do with skin color. They were doing it because of skin color, because their character was so strong. Now, here we are. Your question, being gunned down in the streets. So the thing is this. What is the Martin Luther King fought for the content of the character. What is the character of the people in your community right now? We have characters acting out. They can't be judged by the content of their character. So all you have left is the color of their skin. content. Martin Luther King died for people to look at your character. And you have allowed certain people to come in and make your character a thug, make your character a pimp, make your character a molester of people's dreams. You've made your character be a drug dealer, be something hideous. That's what your character is. Not everybody's character, and this is the sad part. Because people of these characters are blending in with people that had the character that Martin Luther King was talking about. They're blending into your community. They're scaring your community from saying anything to them. An old woman that's been living in your community 30 years, if she tells the police that this drug dealer, I don't want him in front of my house, you've allowed these people to call her a snitch. She's not a snitch. She's a concerned person with character that just don't want this to take place in front of her house. But your thuggery and doggery and your disdain for other human beings' existence because of your selfish behavior labels her as a snitch, and everybody says snitches get stitches. So now this old woman that just cares about her house and her community has to die and get hurt or be threatened by your character. So now when you have these unsavory characters blending in with society, there is this thing, there's this entity, there is this job called law enforcement. Their job is to seek out the people that have unsavory character amongst people with character and remove them. Since they're blending in with the people of character, they have to do things like investigate. They have to do things like profile. They have to find out what is the description of the perpetrator so that we have a description, and we have to go out and look for the description and remove that character from the people with character. And so now, Black Lives Matter. When these people with bad character and their unsavory characterism catches up with them, and then that law enforcement officer comes to say something, they resist the arrest. They resist the potential accountability for their unsavory acts amongst these people with character. Now, I'm going to give you one small part of your argument, but I'm going to give it to you like this. People that are employed because they are people and human beings have the potential of being unsavory characters. If you work at a grocery store, there is possibility of having an employee that works at the grocery store with you that steals from the grocery store, steals from the cash register. So they do not handle their job appropriately. They do not appreciate their job and handle it appropriately. So guess what happens? There's procedures in place that you tell on them and they get removed. You don't want yourself being blanketed by the one that's the unsavory character at the job. Law enforcement is a job, and it has human beings functioning in. And there's human beings that do not appreciate the job and they function it in the improper way. That don't mean we broad stroke the whole police department because of that one unsavory police officer. Yes, they can probably do better at weeding out that bad police officer faster. They can probably do some better profiling to find out if he's going to be a bad actor in sometime down the road. They can probably do all these things. But here's the thing. No matter what industry you're in, what job you have people that do not do it appropriately. They do not do it correctly. So, Black Lives Matter. If you were to get everything that you're protesting for, if we was to acquiesce to all of your marching, screaming, yelling, butting in, not letting other people's point of view, if we was to give you everything that you wanted, here's the question. What will you do to police your community from the unsavory characters? Are you willing to address the 65,000-pound elephant in the room that you don't want to address now? Willing to go into the communities and weed out crime? Are you willing to address the boogeyman that's scaring the mess out of citizens with character? Are you willing to do that? And if you are, guess what? You will come to the conclusion that since the movement you have is advocating on behalf of people with some people with bad character, and that badness catching up to them, you replace character with color. And so no, you're not being gunned down in the streets like the 60s. You people aren't functioning nothing like the 60s. And you are not Martin Luther King. This is Phil Williams, and that's my response to a tweet on the Phil Williams Show.